not the same though. Smoke on the water on a fight just isn't the same. Good, I'll do more.
Welcome back after lunch. I'm glad that you all made it back. How many of you ventured out and saw a little rain? Is that awesome or what? If you want to know why we had rain, I encourage you to go out and check hashtag Podstock2012. You'll see a picture of our very own Amy Wagner doing her rain dance. It's an interpretive dance, and there was already raining on her when it happened. You don't want to miss that. You're going to probably hear this after the last session again, but I do want to remind you that we do have the vendor reception this evening, which includes not only great music, dance, and fun socializing, but also a lot of food. You can eat before you come if you want to, but you really don't have to. So there'll be plenty there as well. So we'll remind you after the next session. I want to go ahead and welcome and introduce to you Dr. James Beeghley, who's going to be your presenter and helping you find some new ways to bring history alive for your students in your classroom. And I was really interested to hear that not only is he an educational technologist, a blogger, and an expert in using technology to bring history alive, but he also is an expert in the symbolism associated with Harry Potter. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, you might like to connect with him on that as well. So I'm going to turn it over and I'd like to welcome Dr. Beeghley.
Thank you. HarryPotter.sqpn.com.
SQPN?
SQPN as in the Star Quest Production Network. So this is a YouTube video of the fifes and drums of Yorktown playing at Fort Ticonderoga. Got any students who are interested in music, right? This is the coolest video that I could ever find with a big fife and drum. I'm around the internet on Fifer 1863, F-I-F-E-R 1863. Okay? So this is a group of young fifers lining up to play. And they've been playing for about 5 minutes now, marching around and whatnot. But I'm going to let this play and turn my audio back on. Okay, watch this quick little group here. I'll just have to wait for a second. They are standing in a line. The guy in front is taking his hat off and is holding like this. How do you play a two-handed instrument with one hand? The guy behind him is reaching over and playing his fife with him. It's a transverse flute, 6 holes. It's like a recorder like this, but only played this way. So his left hand is holding, his right hand is held out, and everybody in the session is doing that. That's cool. I can't watch that enough. Right, so this guy's holding his hat out. Right here. See? They're reaching over, playing. Very cool. I love that video. I really do. It just, expresses so much about just practicing, and history doesn't have to be a 40-minute block of time that you spend in a classroom. It's very cross-curricular. I'm going to show you a lot of those examples today. But since I have an hour and a half before I give my actual presentation, let's do some other cool stuff that I like to do. I have a large collection of fife and drum music and Civil War era music on my computer, as you can see. But there's a song out there done by a gentleman by the name of David Kincaid. David Kincaid is the Irish balladeer. He plays period music, Civil War era music, and describes the Irish volunteers. He's at hauntedfieldmusic.com. But he does this song called "We'll Fight for Uncle Sam." For Uncle Sam. Okay? Their sons to glory. Stripes to stars. Okay? I thought, that's a cool song. So I was out on YouTube one day looking for some music to listen to while I was working. And I came across this song. But only me, they sound like the same song. That's a song by the Dubliners called Whiskey in a Jar. It's exactly the same tune. Now, a little bit further investigation reveals that the Library of Congress has the original words to "We'll Fight for Uncle Sam" made to the tune of Whiskey in a Jar. So how often did that happen? So you can look at the original sheet music on the Library of Congress. To the tune of Whiskey in a Jar. Find a tune from history. Have your students write the lyrics. It's not uncommon. It's been done for hundreds of years. Just spent some time at Fort McHenry with the kids. Right? Star Spangled Banner was written about a drinking song. That's not really true according to the Rangers down there, but depending on who you talk to, it was supposedly a drinking song or whatever, right? So how do you get them to do these? You could change the lyrics. So now we're into music class. We're going to be cross-curricular all day long. But I like to start off with that because, again, you're not thinking about social studies in this 40-minute block or 60-minute block, whatever your things are. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So let's do one or two more here that I like to do. This is good. With the exception of Mr. Glenn in the back of the room, can anybody tell me who these three famous guys are? Mr. Weeby in the back of the room certainly knows who they are. Jesse James was from Missouri, but that's okay. There's a good book about Jesse James that you can use in your classes. It's called Guerrilla Season. It's a great book to use in your classrooms about young Jesse James. These are three Confederate soldiers who were captured and photographed by the famous Matthew Brady in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, on or about July 7th, 1863. Okay, I live 35 miles north of Gettysburg. Okay, what's the matter?
She didn't know it. I tried to tell her. She wouldn't
So these are three famous soldiers. Okay, tell me about them. Go ahead, just shout it out. Tell me about them.
They like hats.
They like hats. Well, all the soldiers liked hats back then. It was a fashion statement back then.
And facial hair.
Do they all have facial hair?
Yeah.
Do they all have facial hair?
We don't have a horse. They're outlaws.
They don't have a horse because their horse would have been taken by the Union soldiers who captured them.
They're outlaws.
They're outlaws. They're Confederates. So depending on which side of the Mason-Dixon line you live on, they may or may not be outlaws.
They once had horses because it looks like no one has saddlebags.
It's saddlebags, okay? Well, let's do something here. I'm using a free program called GIMP, which is the New Image Manipulation Program. I can find my toolbox. What I'm going to do here, it's the wrong photograph. I actually closed it. Darn it. Oh, it's at the top. All right, there it is. All right. What I'm going to do here is zoom in and look at these guys. So now tell me about these three guys.
Is one of them a girl?
They do, in fact, all have facial hair.
They could be my neighbors.
They could be your neighbors. Nice.
Tin cups.
I'm sorry?
Tin cups.
Tin cups, yep.
They have everything they need.
They're carrying everything they need and own at that point.
Is the one verified?
He is not.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Are those drawer ties?
They are actually not. They are actually just stumps and logs and cut down trees. Because this area of the battlefield would have been July 1st near the Lutheran Seminary, and it would have been Confederate lines, so they were building earthworks right here. This is my favorite guy right here. I like this guy. He's really proud. He just got captured. He has no idea what's going to happen to him. And he's standing there.
Standing proud.
You know what I mean? He's got that haunty little kiss my attitude. You know what I mean?
He's got a ring on that's the wrong finger.
Right. Wedding rings weren't as popular back then. But yeah, you can see that. Right? You can start to see their accoutrements. This one's wearing, this is their haversack where they would have carried all of their food. And their canteens. You can see their bullseye canteens. These are, this gentleman here is carrying a blanket roll over his shoulder. So a lot of the Confederate soldiers would have worn blanket rolls instead of knapsacks, which were issued to Union soldiers. And part of their tent would have been in there, extra clothes. Everything that they owned, that they had, would have been rolled up into that blanket and thrown over their side. We can also see this gentleman's braces right here. This gentleman here has them on too. They're also suspenders. Civil War era clothes with the original button fly pants, right?
Okay, is there a significance because the guy on the end, his clothes are darker?
No, just different. A, it's black and white. B, it had just rained, so they may be even damp. Different dark and different colors. So this could be anything from dark blue to red. Very hard to determine in black and white photographs. So, English class, if you're doing whatever topic, throw this picture up. Write me one paragraph about any one of those soldiers who've just been captured. Write the letter home. Dear Mom, just been captured in Gettysburg. What?
The guys are so thin. Too.
They're very thin, yes. But you get to, you can zoom in. You can continue to zoom in on these pictures. Oops. Well, that's a little bit. All right, let's look at his shoes. This guy's got his finger taped or something. There's like tape or something around his finger here. It's a little blurry on the projector. These are called brogans that they would have worn. So now we're looking at their shoes. We're looking at their pants. Different kinds of shoes and things like that. Let's do one more real quick. How many people do you see in the picture? 3. 3, 4. Anybody see 10? Three? Anybody say 3? And no one says 3? Okay, we got 1 or 2 see 3.
Arch and one up front.
One in the. All right, everybody got this one, right?
Yeah.
Where's the second one?
The arch.
In the arch.
There's also one in the back on the left-hand side.
Where at?
In the back in the garden or?
Keep going.
Yes, yes, yes.
Over here?
Yes. When I say that's in the garden. Oh, no.
They're actually tombstones back there.
So is that
Tough crowd. Tell me about that guy.
No, Jim, where's this picture? Is this
This picture also taken first week of July, 1863.
Is he serving his post?
He is serving his post. Young or old? Very young. Tall or short?
short?
Relatively short. And the reason for that is that his musket's coming up to his nose. Okay? His cartridge box, which is slung over his shoulder, right here. This is his breastplate. The breastplate's supposed to be where? On your center of your chest. His was up on his shoulder, meaning he had to have adjusted his strap at some point. His clothes don't fit, but that wasn't entirely uncommon. But again, his musket's up to here. My musket comes up to about my armpit. I mean, and you get an idea of height and size. So that you get an idea that this young man was very young. Now this guy over here, completely different.
Oh, I thought it was a woman. Yeah.
Aha. Now this guy here is one of Matthew Brady's assistants. Completely different attire. He has on a riding frock coat that goes down past his ankles. He's got on a larger hat to get the sun out of his eyes. You can see his braces and his long pants that are rolled up at the bottom covering his boots. Two different stories, two different people, same location and time. Now, how many of you have gone out and gotten images from the internet and you try to put them into some photo program and you start to zoom in and they get all pixelated and all grainy?
Yes.
Right. Why didn't mine do that?
Yes.
Because you have that program.
Got the program. No, A, I do have the program. B, I've got the correct photograph.
Ping. Is it a ping?
So, no, they're not pings, they're TIFFs. All right, so yes, I'm using a program called GIMP, which is GIMP, which is the new image manipulation program. You can also use any photo program. Those of you that have Macs, you can use iPhoto or Preview works on a Mac. So any free software works. But right, the question becomes, which version do you get? Out here in the Library of Congress.
There you go.
Right.
Searching street.
I'm surprised I don't have it bookmarked. It's probably on my Digo site somewhere, but in the interest of... I'm just going to pick one. So these are just some soldiers, just random soldiers that I picked off the Library of Congress website. Okay? You have multiple versions of this picture that you can select from. You can pick a 164K JPEG version. So you want to put this in a PowerPoint and not do anything with it, that's a great version. You have a 20 megabyte TIFF file, which stands for Tagged Encapsulated File Format. And then you have a 86 megabyte one. Don't do these on dial-up. Okay? You'll be there all day. So when you download those TIFF image versions, it allows you to do what I just did. Which is until you get into extreme magnification, which you saw me do one time, I clicked too fast, and it got really pixelated, you can get in and look at the very minute details of these pictures. I've got a room full of people here, one computer, one projector with free resources, engaging you in a lesson. Doesn't take a lot of money, doesn't take a lot of effort. The number one barrier for my research that I found for implementing technology in the social studies classroom has been time. And the second one was resources. Okay? I'm taking you to one website to find the resources, and I'm doing it for free. Most classrooms have access to a computer hooked to the internet and a projector.
Which one of the TIFF versions?
It doesn't matter. You get the same resolution. I have since gone back and downloaded the 90 megabytes. So if I were to show you my folder, it's got 60 or 80 gigabytes of photographs from the Civil War on it. So,
Is there any way of changing the photo if it comes in as a JPEG to it?
no. Because what they do, again, they take this, they get on it, they have a special way that they're scanning it. They're also taking these images. There's an iPad app, and I'd have to ask, I don't have my iPad with me, but it's on my phone. It might be on my phone. Dean Mance, if you see Dean Mance, he knows the name of it. There's actually a Civil War app that you can look at these in 3D. So you can look at these photographs in 3D with the glasses and stuff. That's really cool. It might be Civil War 3D, but don't quote me on that. So the other thing we heard about this morning from our keynote presenter was about tapping into kids' passions and what they really like. Those of you that know me, I have 4 children. And we live 35 miles north of Gettysburg. So a day trip for us is to go to Gettysburg, pack a lunch, let them run around the rocks. But we don't just do that, because our goal is every time we go to Gettysburg, we must learn something new. So I purchased a book. Actually, I got a free copy of the book called The Complete Gettysburg Guide. And we take that book with us, and we learn something new every time we go. So one time I was there, I had my flip video camera, and I went, record. Whereas my kids were reading about what they were learning in Gettysburg.
Hi, I'm Beeghley. We're here in Gettysburg looking for dinosaur footprints.
It's my 7-year-old.
History fossil footprints of dinosaurs can be seen of the capstones used on the bridge across Plum Run along the Confederate Avenue. Along the are not rock carvings. They appear at the beginning of our journey, and so we're seeing.
Can you show it to me? No,
It's right here.
Jacob, do you know what kind of dinosaur this is?
He had read it, but he couldn't remember how to pronounce it.
Ankylosaurus solomoni. So that's a lion-sized.
So we're learning about these things in Gettysburg. How many people knew that there are dinosaur footprints in Gettysburg? You know, so it's little things like that. We always go find witness trees and things like that. And you can do this in your town. What are the hidden historical treasures in your town? You don't need to live near a major Civil War battlefield or a major battlefield to find these hidden little treasures. All right, one more real quick one.
Rock carvings in Gettysburg.
What? Just real quick. This is a very famous spot where the general came back and marked the spot where his unit stood, and he stood actually on this rock. He came back years later and marked it with an X with a chisel and a hammer.
Hi, this is Josh finding rock carvings in Gettysburg. Many of the most intrepid battlefield trampers seek out this X carving, which is situated on a large boulder in Rose Woods. The carving and boulder mark the position that Colonel John Rutherford, a 24-year-old brigade.
Right, so there's like brigadier, you know, like words like that. You didn't quite understand. But again, we're standing in the spot, we're reading about it, learning about it. Kids are doing history right there. Research shows that when kids do history, quote unquote do history, they learn better. Okay? So these kids are practicing their speaking skills, their writing skills. And I put this up and I sent an email to the author of the book. He's now, every time we put one up, he tweets about it. He posts it on his Facebook page. And get hundreds of hits every time he does it. My kids, he loves my kids. Almost as much as my kids love Mr. Honeycutt, but that's okay. But that's what they're doing. They're passionate about something, and how do we tap into those passions? I mentioned it during Brad's follow-up session this morning. You know, how do we tap into those passions? My son is on his journey toward Eagle Scout. He's blogging about it. Tap into those passions of our students. And it doesn't just have to be about a 40-minute block in social studies. Okay? This is just one way to do it. You can do photo walks around town with iPods and things like that. Get interviews of soldiers in your town. I don't care if they're coming back from Afghanistan or whether they're World War II or World War I veterans. Get those stories. Capture those stories. My son is going to interview for his National History Day project one of the members of the class of 1980 at West Point. What was significant about that class? I'm sorry? First females who graduated from West Point, 1980. Happens to be the wife of one of my son's scoutmasters. Was one of the first African-American women to graduate from West Point, Lieutenant Colonel. So, you know, capturing those stories for all time. How do we do that? It's not hard. So I have more videos out there. You'll find it. But I've just, again, we go to Gettysburg, take a flip video camera, pop up the book, create it, put it online. So all of the resources for today's presentation will be at teachthecivilwar.com/podstock. So if you're taking note, I mean, a lot of you have technology, but again, all the links to everything that I'm doing today will be at teachthecivilwar.com/podstock. So how many of you teach historical thinking skills? You know, is it taught as an argument, though? Do we teach history as an argument? I do a lot of work with kids in National History Day projects, in that, you take these things and you say, okay, we're going to talk about this year, it's the event in history. Right, so my son's doing, Women into West Point is the event in history. So, but let's go interview some cadets who were there, some of the male cadets. What did they think about it? So let's get that historical argument going on. There was a session by the lady from the Kansas Historical Society this morning. Next door, you start looking at the opposing points to the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Not just those who are supporting it, who was against it. Are they engaged in analyzing primary and comparing secondary accounts? If not, they should be. Common Core standards, right, are coming. Even though there's none for history, they're in the literacy standards, so you've got to compare them. Now you're required to, right? Do they conduct research? Do they know how to conduct research? I work at a small college in Pennsylvania, and kids coming in don't know how to do research. I go into most of the freshman seminar classes now and teach them how to effectively search in Google. Adding things like quotes around it, or using Google Scholar and things like that. So it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to conduct their research and find the resources that they need. If you don't already know, you should go to the Library of Congress, loc.gov. If you do /teachers, they have a wealth of free information for you. Not only do they have resources and lesson plans and primary source analysis tools. One of their free ones is they do have a primary source analysis tool, but it's like a KWL chart. So, what do you see? What do you think you see? What did we see after we analyze it? So the activity that I just did, there's like a KWL chart for that. I haven't explored it, but I talked to the ladies in San Diego. They had a booth in San Diego at the ISTE conference, and they're coming out with an interactive one, an interactive primary source analysis tool. So being able to look at that. At the /teachers, they also have free professional development for you. So you can take courses online for free and for credit that allow you to learn how to search the Library of Congress database effectively. There's also a program out there called Teaching with Primary Sources, and they also offer, as part of their mandate, those regions that get them must provide free professional development for teachers. They have level 1 and level 2. And it's free. Did I mention it was free? And it's more than just social studies. Like I just pulled up the music, the sheet music from, the Whiskey in the Jar. They've got, if kids are into baseball cards or whatever, there's old baseball cards out there. There's maps and there's music and there's pictures and all kinds of different things that they're doing, and it's all available to you. Dr. David Hicks came up with what he calls the SkinC Method of looking at primary source analysis tools, or looking at primary sources. And it's summarizing, contextualizing, inferring, monitoring, and corroborating. So you look at a primary source and you skim it. Just give me your initial overview. What do you think? What do you see? So then you start to put it into a historical context. And we looked at those 3 soldiers from Gettysburg this morning. Those 3 soldiers, what is going on that particular time? The Confederate soldiers have just lost a major battle of the American Civil War, what some would call the turning point. What is going on at that time? Vicksburg just fell the day before. Those soldiers probably weren't aware of that, but they did. But it happened. So what is the overall context of that? Make some inferences. What do you think is going to happen to those 3 soldiers that are standing there? What do you think is going on? Okay? Then we can get some other resources from around the room and pull it up and collaborate it together and come up with the real story behind it. So, and there's a link to Dr. Hicks' research on the teachthecivilwar.com/podstock that you can read more about it. So we talked a little bit about the Common Core. Well, what they are is they're built into the literacy standards, as we all know. So history teachers are literacy teachers. They have historical reading and writing skills that students should master before they leave high school. taking these historical documents. So again, writing these letters. I had a friend who was a teacher. He was a National History Day Teacher of the Year several years ago, who would take his students out in the middle of the winter. He had built little shelter halves for them, put them under these shelter halves that they had coats on. They were in the winter in the snow. They were writing letters home as if they were the soldiers in George Washington's Continental Army in Trenton, New Jersey. So they got the experience. And in the same sense, he would take them out in the summertime. He would take them out back, put them in the big field, and they would do shaker dances. Shaker was a religion back, in early days. Dance with the devil. And I would see them out there going like this, and things like that. Because that's what they would do, but they were engaged in doing history in a different way. He also did the Henry Box Brown, the guy that shipped himself from the south to the north in a box. They would build a box. Talk about project-based learning. I thought I saw Ginger somewhere. Right? Build a box and have you ship yourself to the north on the Underground Railroad, right? How do you teach them how to write these things? Historical accounts. Learn about pictures, or take a picture, or take an event. Write your own account of it as if you're a reporter. Then go online and find the original newspaper accounts of that event, and put it in, and then put it into, and then compare the two. What you thought of it and what they thought of it. So you listen to you read the Gettysburg Address. You play. There's multiple versions of people reciting the Gettysburg Address. All right, take that event or the Martin Luther King speech or whatever it is. Play that. Now write the narrative. Then go and look at some of the newspapers and how they covered it. Most of the newspaper articles of the Gettysburg Address, I'm like, is that it? Really? You know what I mean? Because people didn't understand the context that he had said it in. Oh, by the way, did anybody teach the Gettysburg Address? No? You have? There's so much cool symbolism in the Gettysburg Address. From birth to death and history. Oh, that's a lot of fun stuff. A vision of the literate person in the 21st century includes cognitive reasoning of evidence, essential to responsible citizenship in a democratic republic. Citizenship is one of the founding principles of the National Council of Social Studies, and it's riddled through all of their standards. Arguments focused on discipline-specific content. 12th graders introduce precise, knowledgeable claims. Distinguish between data and evidence. Strengths and limitations. 6th graders should write arguments. If you're not doing National History Day with your social studies kids, you need to be doing National History Day because all of these are covered in everything that National History Day does. If nothing else, look at their curriculum and the things that they do and how they set up their projects. Setting things in historical context. Analyzing the difference between primary and secondary sources. I had a kid who was doing a presentation on, I forget the topic, but he had no primary sources on his presentation. I felt bad for the kid. I said, where are your primary sources? He said, I couldn't find any. Primary sources, whatever. I'm like, dude. You know what I mean? I felt bad for the kid. Because he had no primary sources, and you can't win a competition like the National History Day with no primary sources. So how are we teaching them to be engaged in doing that stuff? So let's talk a little bit about why we should use Web 2.0 with our kids. Not that most people here don't know, but it allows them to engage in new literacy and express themselves in new ways. So when we start thinking about Bloom's taxonomy, right? What's at the top level of Bloom's taxonomy? Creating. Thank you. So, when it allows them to express themselves in different ways. So, we saw some of that this morning. Again, I go back to Brad, letting them express themselves in the ways that they want to. Some of them are creating Lego things, some of them are podcasting, some of them are the producer behind the camera, some of them are the script writers. Let them be their own creative. And the little girl who started singing, amazing. All right, it stimulates new modes of inquiry and gets kids, again, moving them up. Moving them up Bloom's taxonomy. It also teaches them publishing content and takes ownership of it. One of the neat things is if a student writes a paper and they turn it into their teacher, how many people read it? 1 or 2, right? Or mom or dad if they wrote it, right? Right? But if they publish it to the web, thousands and thousands and thousands of people will do it. Can they turn their writings into a book and have it published, and then they're becoming a published author. What are they passionate about? At that point, too, when it goes onto the web, all of a sudden spelling and grammar count. My daughter, who's now 14, created a very popular and award-winning project called Civil War Sally. Anybody heard of Flat Stanley? All right, there's a session later on following Flat Stanley or something like that, right? My daughter did a project called Civil War Sally, which is Flat Stanley on Web 2.0. It's a teddy bear that's traveling around the country learning about the American Civil War and blogging about it, and posting to Flickr and tweeting about it. So it's like, I see the Flat Stanley, it goes from one location to the other, and you put these pictures in a box or something like that, but the people afterward never get to see where Flat Stanley has been. Sally takes that one level further and allows them to create it and allows them to publish and see where she's been. And it also allows them to blog in a safe manner. And a lot of people have concerns about kids blogging and things like that. They blog as the character. It doesn't have to be about or in their own names. Creates opportunities for collaborative learning, which you guys know. So when you start managing Web 2.0 tools, keep it simple. Start small. It doesn't have to be a major project. Look for some student experts. Open yourself up to that. Find a lot of teachers, especially in smaller schools, that do not they just don't want to release and say, hey, maybe you know something about it, or let you go run with that, and then you teach me how to use it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Everybody has a PLN? Somebody said it yesterday in one of the sessions that, if you don't know 100 people by the time you leave here, something's wrong. You need to get out and meet people and ask for help. Because we are a family, right? The Podstock family. Limit the options. One of the things that I get here a lot is that I've got a rubric for my project that says that the students must create a poster. Okay? Yeah, I can get cutouts and glue and put it on a wall and paste it and hang it up in the hallway, or can I do something else online? So you write your rubric in such a way that gives the kids options, but you make it such that the options are, you can do a couple of things. So when you start managing them, it allows them to make it very focused. And it doesn't overwhelm you as the teacher. If you have time, right? Again, going back to the number one barrier. All right, so I picked out 10, my top 10, which could be top 100, Web 2.0 tools for integrating in WordPress, listen to me, into social studies. And we can talk about a few of them, give some examples. Prezi, which is the PowerPoint presentation that I'm using. I like it so much better than PowerPoint. I like the whole zooming thing. I like how easy it is to embed videos and multimedia into the presentation. I just find it a lot easier to use. You get a free upgraded account for teachers. It's easy to take and embed into a wiki or into a web page. I don't have to take my PowerPoint, upload it to SlideShare, and then embed the SlideShare. I just take the Prezi and embed it right in. Again, it allows students to be a little bit more creative and allows them to do comments. So here's a primary source analysis tool, one example. So here it's just a Prezi on how to do primary sources. Study the photograph for 2 minutes. What do you think? So, just a nice little primary source analysis tool. Interactive textbooks. This is on the Vikings. So all of the links to these are on the website, on the webpage. I'm not going to show all of them for interest of time. But just again, walking yourself through a book allows you to do it. You can also use, I didn't put it up here, but like Animoto will do the same thing. You can do short little book walks in Animoto. Allows you to throw some pictures in and tell the story through Animoto, allowing them to create themselves. I just thought of that one. And the reason why I thought of it is because my son did the, what's the book of the dragon? How to Tame a Dragon. You had to do the characters and whatnot. So The assignment from the teacher was you had to create a PowerPoint, and you had to have X number of characters in it. You had to have some text and who the main characters were and whatever. The setting, he's like, "Can I do an Animoto?" And I said, "I don't care." So he met the criteria, but he did it in an Animoto, and it was a lot more creative. Blabberize is really cool. It's the talking mouths on characters that you can voice over. So those students who don't want to get up and stand in front of the microphone and talk are able to put their voice over. So instead of standing up and dressing up as Elizabeth Cady Stanton and doing a speech, the student can bring up a picture like this. He'll talk over it. So it teaches them they've got to write the script. They've got to record it. You can do it right into your laptop, or you can buy a $5 little or $15 little boom mic, or you can get a little bit more expensive depending on how you want to do it. You know, Brad, the keynote this morning, Brad, he had a Behringer mixer, a little 802 mixer, and a Shure SM58 microphone hooked into his computer. The cost of that is, well, the Shure mixer, or the Behringer mixer is like $89. The Shure SM58 is about $70. So, and you can use free software, and you get high quality audio at that point. Okay. So you can do conversations. Imagine doing like the Lincoln Douglas debates, you know, or create your own Barack Obama and Mitt Romney debates. Write your own script on a particular topic, or based on what their party stance is, have them do a debate. Recreate famous speeches or written works. That's an easy one. And here's Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Cady Stanton. I was born November 12, 1815 in Johnstown, New York. Growing up, I had 10 sisters and 1 brother. I got the last name Stanton by marrying the lawyer Henry Stanton in 1840. I became famous for being a leading figure of the women's movement. I was also a part of the anti-slavery convention. I passed away on October 20.
You only have so much time, right? But to get the idea, you know, just a little way to promote using that tool. Blogster is one of my favorite ones for creating posters. You know, I spend a lot of time, I have 4 children. You know, I spend a lot of time with the kids cutting things out or helping them cut things out and creating poster boards and things like that for them to be put up in a hallway for one, you know, just the kids inside those walls to see. And if it's depending on how your school is structured, if they put it in the 3rd grade hallway, it's only seen by the 3rd graders who are walking up and down that hallway. You know, my kids were, like my one son was in 4th grade last year, and they're off this alcove. So, I mean, a couple of the students who go to the art classroom down there, go to the one room down there, but it's just, they put them in those hallways where nobody sees them. Blogs, you can put it up and the whole world can see them and comment on them. But it's online posters. Creating multimedia. I love the ability, you can take like your Discovery streaming videos, you can take YouTube videos, you know, PDFs and things and put them into and create their own online posters for kids. Anything from Wordles to web links and whatever, but you can do it. Presenting information. Biography reports, this is an easy way to do a biography report. You can take the Blabberize and then put it into, like here's one of the ones that I always like to show is, if I didn't close it. This is like the Battle of Pearl Harbor. So you've got images. So think of a poster rubric that you're going to make your kids do. You must create a poster, you know, poster board. It's got to have X number of images. It's got to have X number of facts. It's got to have a header. How do you get that information and put it into something like this? It's very simple. We're going out to the Library of Congress or the National Geographic website. Thinkfinity has some great stuff for social studies, and it's free. If you're not doing Thinkfinity from the Verizon Foundation, you should. There are all kind of free resources that's tied to places like the National Geographic and the Smithsonian and things like that. They've got History Explorer. All of those resources out there are free. Because I understand teachers don't have any money, right? How are we doing? Anybody have any questions? As I take a quick drink.
Well, like on those posters, how would you have the students just present them?
Yeah.
And then they'd stay online, but not like print them or?
No, you can't print them, no.
You can.
You can now?
Yeah, they'll print, they'll actually print on 8.5 by 11, and then you can actually enlarge it and get it on that Beeghley paper, the 8.5 by 16 or 8.5.
Well, there you go.
But you can embed them in Edmodo,
Yep.
and
You can embed them in Wikispaces or Edmodo or whatever you want. Grab that embed code and put it in there. This is what I'm going to Great Depression. Podomatic is a quick way for you to create podcasts. Now what Brad was doing this morning was really cool. Again, he's got some money invested into cameras and audio equipment, and he's got kids earning badges to be a podcaster. If you just want to do something quick and dirty, this is an easy way to do it. If you have access to portable devices, if you have some iPods, this is an iPhone, but the apps are the same. iPods, you can do, you can hit recording right here and get, audio recording and sound on voice. But Podomatic, again, allows us to put it up online. What's really cool too is it allows for commenting, which you can turn on or off depending on how you want to do it. And you can embed it into your website. Public service announcements for historical events. What's going on in a different part of the world, a different time period that you're studying. Write me a public service announcement for that. The effects of Agent Orange or whatever, you know what I mean? So you take those events and put them into context. Or you're a remote town and you're learning about a certain event that happened. The fall of, or the winning of a war, the gold being found in California. How did people in Kansas learn about gold being found in California? Write that announcement, write that historical news announcement, and take that information and put it out there. So it teaches the kids writing skills because they have to write the script. It teaches them that speaking skills too. Radio plays were very popular in the radio days. We're doing the Roaring 20s next year. Did I see that? Roaring 20s next year, so radio, announcements. If you still listen to shows like the Prairie Home Companion with Garrison Keillor on the radio, like those old radio shows, how they did it, or how would they do like the Hindenburg crashing? How would you cover that event as a newscast? Morning news announcements, you can record these and put them up on your website. They're capturing history of what's going on in your school. Radio, the Willowcast, this is just a morning radio show that they do. Very popular. Toon is fun for younger kids to start looking at history. Allows you to create some comic strips. Again, things that you can embed. Create a Wikispaces account. It allows you to embed these things. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. You can add your own images or you can upload them.
What was that last one?
What's that?
What was that last one?
The Toon-Do?
Toon-Do.
Toon-Do, yeah, you can upload them. Do Inc. is fun as well. Or Doink. Because I had a friend who taught a thing, and she was doing something on Do Inc. And I said, what's Doink? What's Do Inc? So you can do What's Wrong with This Cartoon, so you can do historical pieces. Here's the one on the War in the West. So here's a case where they, loaded up the information and put it, just another way for them to present the information. Excuse me. The Battle of Saratoga, I'll show you one more. This one's a little bit cornier. You know, the British are coming through the trees, you know, not through the trees, but they're, so, you know, again, just gets them to tell those stories. You can do it in a couple little 3 or 4 frame cartoon. WordPress is really, is one of many blogging platforms that I recommend. I do everything that I do in WordPress. I like the convenience of it. I like how it works. I like how it's easy to configure and things like that and install and have control over it. But one of the nice things about it is that I always hear that from technology coordinators who say that we can't install WordPress, we can't do any blogging because we can't install it and have it outside on blogger.com or wherever. I'm like, you know what, in 3 clicks, you can install WordPress on a server at your school behind the firewall, so it doesn't have to be public. Create a bunch of users, and all of a sudden, in less than 10 minutes, you're blogging. And it's not open to the public. It's not out there for the whole world, but in less than 10 minutes, you can be blogging on your own server in your school with no fear of these things, of the public seeing it or whatever. And you can do that with WordPress. You can't do that with Blogger, running it on your own server. If you have Google Apps, though, you can do Blogger through Google Apps accounts. But I use WordPress, and again, there's others. I'm not the be-all of end-all. But it allows you to take advantage of the features and then create multiple blogs. You can do multiple users, so they all have the same look and feel and things like that, which I really like about WordPress. So you can turn to Blogspot if you need it, or Blogger. There's a lot of really good ones out there. Another friend of mine, Eric Langhorst, who was Missouri Teacher of the Year not too long ago, History Teacher of the Year. He runs a site called Speaking of History. And his website, he's always blogging and talking about his travels and things that he does and how he uses technology. He has a presentation that he does called Hard Tack to Hard Drives, about using technology to teach the Civil War, where he uses the book Guerrilla Season that I mentioned earlier. What's really interesting about that is he did this book Guerrilla Season, and the author picked up on it. He must have found it somehow. And the author found that the kids were posting blog posts about his book, and the author started commenting on them. So now he Skypes the author into the classroom when he covers that book.
What was that guy's name?
Eric Langhorst. He goes, Speaking of History. So just recently he went to Monticello in Washington, D.C., so he's throwing up pictures of his travels, sort of like what I do, talking about the different things. So that's Eric's site. But he's also got links to different resources on his page. So there's Eric's site. Middle school student blogs, they're doing this. The middle school one, they're documenting their classes as they're going through class. I've seen ones where they document an Underground Railroad, slaves. They're Harriet Tubman leading the slaves out of the South to the North and blogging as journal entries. They don't have to be. I have to get over this. I used to say that every blog post has to be between 300 and 500 words and search engine optimization rich and all these things so I can get higher on Google. But they really no. Let them create the content. If it's 100 words, it's 100 words. If it's 10 words, it's 10. The point is that they're writing and they're sharing. And they get better and better. So my son, who's doing Journey Through Scouting right now, his blog posts aren't the best, but he's 11. He might misspell something once in a while, or he doesn't know how to format it properly. Really, that should probably be a paragraph right there, buddy. But I'm not editing it. I've shown him and given him the instructions if he needs help uploading a photo or something, that I help him with that. But the content is entirely his. We'll proofread it so he doesn't say something that would be totally inappropriate or something like that. But for the most part, everything is his. Like 99% for the most part. Anybody, Glenn, you familiar with that one?
It's an awesome website.
It's an awesome website. Don't bother. There's another one, Social Studies Central or something like that. Gentleman in the back of the room, Glenn Weeby, runs historytech.wordpress.com. He also runs Social Studies Central. So he's got a lot of resources for you to find and be able to use in your classroom. We've got to get you converted over to your own domain, right? Just again, this is not so much how they're using it, but again, this is just resources and how you can use them and things that he's found along the way. Great stuff. VoiceThread, anybody use VoiceThread? Yeah, VoiceThread's cool. But what it does is it allows you to upload images or slides and then do voiceovers, and you can also do writings, like you can draw over top of them. I have a friend who did it with her, was it kindergarten or first grade students. They were studying the presidents in February. So they were studying about Abraham Lincoln. And they had little first graders writing one sentence about Abraham Lincoln that they had learned. So they were drawing, and little first grader drawing and coloring it in. And then they did the voiceover of it. And Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin in 1801. And they had the picture there, and it was all drawn over. It's really cool. And again, it doesn't take a lot of resources. You can go to Walmart right now and buy a $5, $10 microphone. Don't have till 3 o'clock?
Oh, sorry.
You're scaring me. She's like 5 minutes. I'm like, really? Thought I had till 3 o'clock.
You need it until 3 o'clock. Lynn told me to do that.
So I had to give 3 slides yesterday. We had a pre-conference yesterday. I had to give 3 slides. I stood up there and I started talking for a couple of seconds, and I had 5 minutes to do 3 slides. And I stood up and I started talking, and the girl in the front of the room was keeping time. She went, I went, what? How do you, that was, that's more nervous-wracking than anything. But, VoiceThread is really cool for allowing students to create and animate or voice over some historical picture or pictures that they've taken. You're going to do photo walks, things like that. So take that photo walk around your town or around your school, take a picture of it, and then put it up on VoiceThread for everybody to see. It kind of becomes a digital yearbook kind of thing.
Hi, my name is Juan Ponce Leon. I was born in the country of Spain in the year 1474. I explored for the country of Spain, which is my home country. I wanted a journey to find the fountain of youth. I wanted to find the fountain of youth because the water is supposed to make a person younger, and I was getting old.
Start annotating it over here. Do one more. There's 8 slides in this particular one.
I wanted to find the fountain, but the King of Spain wanted me to conquer Puerto Rico first. I, of course, had to be the governor of Puerto Rico.
So you kind of get the idea. But you can take any website and put that information on it. Put pictures on it. These are just pictures from the web or whatever, and do it. And share it. Letters, this is a good one too. The letters from internment camps, which you can get. And here's a lesson plan on how to do it. And then you take these letters and then play.
Welcome to our VoiceThread. Throughout the year, we've been studying the theme of tolerance and the internment of the Japanese Americans in World War II. The students have written historical fiction letters as if they were in the internment camps themselves. We invite you to join in on our conversation and even download our project to show to others.
Hi, 4th graders. My name is Mrs. Shabbat, and I teach 4th graders in Chicago. I found your VoiceThread very moving. Your letters sounded very authentic. We do a unit on Righteous Amongst the Nations, where we talk about the righteous people who helped others during the Holocaust. It seems like a similar theme of your unit. It would be interesting to compare notes. So maybe we'll get in touch and do a project together. But thank you for putting this on the internet so that we can all share your thoughts.
So that's what I found cool too. There's another teacher teaching the same thing who gave feedback, and now they want to do the whole flat classroom thing. It's really cool to being able to do that.
Dear Manuel, I am on my way to an internment camp, and I know it is going to be really scary. Plant food, Korean hot dogs, it is not good for you. We're eating hot dogs every day. This is a dump. I'm sick of this.
So, what'd she say, 4th grade or something? Again, they wrote in 4th grade, letters. It's historical fiction, but it's just a way to get kids to write more. Using pictures in classes is really easy. So when you rock in, I have a lot of teachers, especially elementary school teachers in the morning, they'll put up a sentence. What did you do last night? Or write me a sentence, write me 3 sentences. Open up your journal and write 3 sentences about whatever. Why not throw up a picture from history or a newspaper article and say, write me 3 sentences about that picture. We're going to talk about them in social studies class. Much more engaging and say, what did you have for dinner last night? What did you do on your summer vacation? Can't you just read my blog? You know what I mean? So, getting them engaged in doing it. It doesn't have to be in that certain time period. So there are a lot of, I love wiki spaces, but I started to mention about talking social studies in different class periods. We can do any period in history, we can go across topics. Like math. You start talking about social studies and math. What percentage of soldiers from Kansas participated in the World War I or the American Civil War? You can go out and get information on Fox's regimental losses and find them by state. So you can get the number of students and a number of soldiers that were engaged, number that were killed, wounded, missing. Get all that information, put it into a simple spreadsheet or a simple worksheet, and then have the students fill it out. So it's simple. We're teaching statistics, simple percentages, or manipulating the spreadsheet to say which unit they have to fill in the formulas for the unit. Which one's, getting the highest percentage or lowest percentage and things like that. Those are simple ones to do. Have your students stand up have all the boys in the room stand up. Let's say there's, 10 of them in the room. The 1st Minnesota at the Battle of Gettysburg lost 80% of their soldiers in less than 30 minutes as they charged the Confederates on the 2nd day of the battle. Okay, have 8 of your boys sit down. That leaves 2. Ladies in the room. That's now what you have to pick from to marry. Right? Because everybody else is dead. What are you going to do now that you're home? Or if you are married to one of those 8 that died, what are you going to do now? Stories like that. Stand them up in the middle of the room. Or get the entire class line up in file order. Like they're marching off to lunch, right? One behind the other. You're marching you're marching 27 miles to a location, to a battle. You can do this in your town. I can say, from where I live, I can say you're marching from Chambersburg to Gettysburg is 26 miles. That's kind of like going from, Carlisle to Harrisburg and back, or something like that. It would be like walking that distance. I know that makes absolutely no sense to you, but you probably have similar references what 25 miles from your location would be. Okay? So how long would it take an average soldier marching, or an average person walking at 1.2 miles per hour to march 24 miles? So how long would the line be if you had 500 soldiers in a line, in a single file line? Tape measure on the floor, measure it out. Okay, we're marching along for a couple of miles. The road just got wider. We're going to go to columns of 2. So our line just got shorter. How much shorter? Oh, it's even wider yet. So we're going columns of 4. How much shorter did the line get? What's the difference from the front to the back? So little stories like that. Now I'm integrating math. Kids don't know. They think they're standing up. They're having a good time walking around the classroom, right? They're really doing math. Getting them engaged in doing it. You know, just these little projects that you can have them do. Okay? Wikispaces is cool. Everybody should have an account if you don't. If you don't have one, or you're going to get one, make sure you get the For Teachers account, because Adam from Wikispaces has provided ad-free versions for teachers. So if you just go out to wikispaces.com and sign up for an account, it's going to have ads in it. If you go to the For Teachers site, it'll get the ones without the ads. It allows you to create these web pages online. So you can do a historical yearbook, you can do an encyclopedia, you can do book discussions, you can collaborate with other people. Adopt the country. Here's another anecdote. My daughter in 7th grade, they're doing a year-long project in social studies called Adopt the Country, where they have to learn all of these different things about a particular country, and then they have to, at the end of the year, they do this project on it. They have to put this compiling project in a 3-ring binder. So at the beginning of the year, she comes home, and she says, oh, I got to find money from China. Okay, Google money, Chinese money, pictures of Chinese money, and images.google.com. She's like, yeah, I need to print them out and paste them into a 3-ring binder. Really? Let me just carry a wiki. No, Mrs. Mallory would never allow me to have a wiki. Really? No technology. Why? Because she thinks we need to have the skills to cut things out and paste them into a book. I'm like, you're in 7th grade. We got through that in kindergarten and 1st grade, right? Let's get a little more creative. Let's move up this Bloom's taxonomy thing. But she's old school. She's an old Air Force major or something like that. Right? She doesn't want to do that. But you take this project, so then all year long, different things. So she had to learn about the culture, the clothes, and all these things. And every time she had to print it out, paste it into a book. So I said, why? And then again, she turns that in. The only person that sees it is her teacher. All that work that could have been a really cool National History Day project, or a really cool research for somebody else that's studying the country of China, all of these resources and other countries that the kids in the class did, could access that and had rights to do it and the ability to do it. And there's nothing out there that would have prevented them from doing, from sharing that information and collaborating on it, because it was just so much easier. But you have to be open to allow your students to do it. And I know that this audience is definitely open on it, but you're going to run into people like that. Book discussions. Now, I know the lightning thief is a little stretch, but if you get right down to it, it's got a lot of Greek gods and gods, and it's talking about social studies and things like that. But it's also about literature, which is why I picked it. Greek mythology. You got to catch what the kids are interested in. Okay? So even if you want to get Harry Potter, I'm not going to mention the T word one, okay? But the vampires and werewolves. Ginger's like, what are you talking about? Shh.
Twilight. Oh, Twilight. Yes, yeah, I was like, I don't know.
Sorry. Right. We're on the segue. But again, how do you take what they're passionate about? A couple of years ago, this was the hit. This was the rage. Kids are still talking about and reading Harry Potter. It's got some historical significance in it, right? You're going to sit down and you're going to learn about the Goblin Rebellions of 1635. Right? How many want a history teacher like Professor Binns, who talked so much and lectured so much that he left his body in the staff room and got up and continued to teach the same way as a ghost? Right? No, we don't want to do that. Okay? We did a thing one time on Harry Potter, Secrets of Harry Potter. We call it, we need less Professor Umbridge and more, Professor McGonagall, and engaging students in doing things and things like that. Because it wasn't just about, structured lecture right out of the book. But, you got to watch copyright in some cases on here, some of the pictures and things like that. But, mythological family tree. So if you click on this family tree, I don't know what the popular books are right now for kids. I know my daughter's kind of moving away from some of those. But, here's a mythological family tree. that you can research. You know, they provide a link to that. You know, just little things and pictures and tying that information together and allowing students to be expressive and creative in their own way, which is what I think we learned about this morning during our keynote. I keep going back to the keynote this morning. The new feature of Wikispaces 2 allows you to create projects. So you can get multiple kids working on a project together, and then they can all compile that all together and use it. And there's so many ways you can use it. X timeline is cool for creating timelines for kids. You know, when you have to lay out the long piece of paper and start drawing a line, you know what I mean? Or try doing it in timeline in Microsoft Word. Right? Talk about advanced technology skills. You know, getting those slanted lines, getting the text to go that way. Right? How long would it take you as an adult to create a timeline with angled lines and dates and things all lined up and pictures in Microsoft Word? And you're shaking your head. Why would you do it? Right. Why would you do it? Right? Kids don't want to do it either. This is fun. But you can add pictures and time and information to it. So it allows you to add that multimedia and pictures. You can do anyone from history. Do your teacher. You know? Whoever you want. Make somebody up. So here's George Washington. That you can, you know, again, look at the information provided, go down through his life. So here he became the hero of Monongahela. Cornwall surrender, and they've incorporated pictures in all of the text. And this is created by students. So just again, an easy way for you to allow them to express themselves. So all of my resources are at teachingcivilwar.com/podstock. I've got a few more minutes. I'm going to show you a couple more. I wanted to go back and give a minute to see if anybody had any questions or some specific examples. Sir?
Early on you mentioned, go back, you mentioned a KWL at the Library of Congress site?
I'm sorry, I mentioned a what at the URL?
KWL at the Library of Congress?
Yes.
Library of Congress, is it like a different KWL?
It's a primary source analysis tool. It's a worksheet.
So it's not a true, it's not a...
It's not a true KWL?
But it's the primary source document analysis sheets at the Library of Congress?
Yep.
Okay.
Over here under classroom materials, I think is where it's at.
Are those, Jim, are those just the ones that they've had posted before? I mean, it's a...
No, they haven't actually, again, I haven't seen it, but I'm told there's a new one coming out that is going to be interactive.
If you go to that one website, I can't remember exactly, the history tag website, I think.
I've never heard of it.
It does have, that interactive one has come out.
Oh, it has?
And I posted a link to it just last Friday, so you can go back to that. It will be on there, but I was curious if that KWL is different than the traditional primary source document analysis sheet worksheets that have been there for a while.
So here's the PDF version of the primary source analysis tool. So here's you observe, reflect, question. So again, you know, what do you think you see? So you're just looking at it. What, you know, then you're reflecting on it a little bit more, and then we're going to question. What do we want to learn about it?
That may be the interactive one right there.
Okay. Is this it here?
Yeah. I think you may have actually been on that one.
Okay, so that's it. So that's, now they've made it interactive. But you can still get the PDF version of it, so if you want to actually print it out and do it with your kids. On this website, thanks Glenn, the right Yeah, yeah, you can. I can just type my responses in right here. That's cool.
If you hit that little question,
Right here?
question mark, well, you can select what kind of primary source document. You can click that. You can go through different.
Oh, there you go. What did you notice first? Find something small but interesting. Very cool.
And you can download, once you have it printed or written
Yeah.
out, you can download it or print it.
I talked to the ladies at, again, I talked to them at ISTE, so it must have just come out.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can also, right here's a PDF version. So if you actually want, and you're in a situation where not all of your students have access to a mobile device, or you're not in a classroom, you can print this out and they can write into it in a PDF version. I'm not against that in some cases. Wordle's another cool one. What document do you think that is? The Constitution. Why do you think that it's these words are the largest words? United States, state, and president. Right.
So it's not really a balance of the three powers, is it?
Right, where's the judicial, right? Good point. Where do we see the judicial in it? Can anybody? Right. We have a judicial branch?
Not on there.
Not according to that. Law. Wait, I see law. Well, that's one of the things is when you use Wordle, if you get a document and you take Wordle and you start to put it up, it helps if you do a quick copy it into a Word document and do a quick search and find and replace. So you want to see law and change lowercase and uppercase law to one of them, or student and students to make it the same word, because then you really get a true sense of what's going on. We've got like 8 or 9 founding documents or core documents that we have at the college, and our mantra is always students, faculty, and staff. So my boss took all of our founding documents after I showed him Wordle. He took all of our founding documents and put them into Wordle to see where we would come out. And it just so happened that the 3 biggest words in our document were students, faculty, and staff. But what if you throw this up in the morning as their students are walking into class, or if you're in high school or whatever, and you throw up some historical document, and as they're walking in, they're looking at that and they're going, I wonder what that is. I wonder what we're talking about today. Play some music behind it. Those types of little clips and things like that allow you to engage in doing, just gets kids start to think a little bit as they're walking in the door. What are we going to talk about? If you look at the Gettysburg Address, why does country and coming together and united pop up as the biggest words? What's going on? What's the context that's going on at that time? Anybody want to guess what that one is? Whoever had lunch with me can't do the camera. Anybody have lunch with me? I talked about it at lunch. Going once? It's the Kansas-Nebraska Act that I got from kansasmemory.org, which is the Kansas Historical Society. What a great collection of resources they had. I learned about it right before lunch. So I said, Kansas-Nebraska Act, let's throw it into a Wordle and talk about it. Why is territory the largest word? What's the most times used, but why that? But why is it the most times used? It was a territory at that time. Right. So, looking at those words, why did they pop out? So we're going to talk about this in class today. And I just threw that one together. See, now you should be going like this, right? So again, the Library of Congress and their collection of resources is amazing at what you can do. But I mean, if I do nothing else, thinking about we did cross curricular, let's do science. talk about science. We'll do it with a graphic, of course. Oh, this is the small size. It's only 3 gig. This is one of the photographs of Gettysburg they have yet to find the location for. It'll take it a second to come up. It's called The Harvest of Death. What are the effects of 90-degree heat and rain and exposure on the human body for 3 days? Yeah, really. They're bloated, right? So we're talking about science. I've always loved it, right? But again, write me this story for this guy. They're pretty sure that these are Union soldiers that were killed, but they're still debating because they can't nail down the location. So write me that story of this guy. Oh wait, you gotta get a rule of cool effect. Just so you get the idea, you know, let's blow up, you know. Right after lunch. It's a good one right after lunch. You know? Or, you know, do you take ones from bottom, I want the top. This is a good one. You know, if you want to talk about dead soldiers and things like that. So Alexander Gardner, Timothy O'Sullivan took this photograph here, this dead soldier in Gettysburg. Oh, let's zoom in on that. We got the hand laying there, we got the shell, the soldier was blown up by the shell. There's a great thing in Gardner's photographic sketchbook which you can buy for your iPad and share with your students. Okay? Blown up. Insides were ripped out by that shell that's laying next to him. Yeah, that was made up. It's actually wild hogs that were released as the soldiers came through and knocked down the fences. It was actually pigs that ate them out. Because there are accounts that you can read of there's a lieutenant from one of the units who's dying, leaning against a rock or a tree, I don't remember what it was, leaning there with his sword, beating off hogs with his sword at Gettysburg to keep from getting eaten because he was too wounded to move. Ooh. So here's one more. This photograph is very famous, was found by William Frassanito in 1969. I was at a yard sale. I usually bring the book when I do these presentations, but I didn't have a whole lot of room. I packed light. But this photograph is Confederate dead on the Rosewoods, oftentimes mislabeled as Union dead on the first day of the battle, some 3 miles away from this location. So I was at a yard sale one day or a flea market or something, and I saw this book, the Gettysburg Atlas, 50 cents. So I'm like, you know, throw that out. 50 cents is worth it. I looked at the author. He was the chair of the history department of the U.S. Naval Academy. Doctor of history, something along those lines, right? I'm flipping through the book, and there's this picture in it. The copyright of the book was 1990, something like that, 1989, late 80s, early 90s. This picture is in it. He had it labeled as dead of the Iron Brigade on the first day of the battle. Wait a minute. This guy's chair of the history department at the U.S. Naval Academy. Teaching young naval midshipmen, I can't call them cadets, I got in trouble for that once, about history. And he's wrong. Because in 1969, William Frassanito found this location and determined that it was Confederate dead in the Rosewoods. And he had published his findings in a book in the 1970s. So how do we teach our students to be information literate? I've seen this picture in textbooks, identified as the Iron Brigade in Gettysburg. And the reason why they say it's the Iron Brigade is because of this guy right here. He's got a black hat on. That was typical. Dang it. I clicked too fast. This hat, called a hard hard he had, but it's down. It's typical of the Iron Brigade. That's the reason why he said it. We've got to teach our kids to be information literate. The other thing that I like to tell teachers to do too is any history textbook that you do, you take that textbook, you open it up, and you see a photograph. What's underneath it? A caption. Who's written that caption? The textbook people. Take that same picture, throw it up on a screen, let your kids write the caption. Give me one sentence about it. Write that caption. If you were the author of this book, I'm building your textbooks for you. Anybody hear about the Virginia scandal? Right? The textbooks that the state of Virginia bought for their history textbooks were completely wrong about history. Millions and millions of dollars invested in textbooks that are completely wrong. Just different parts of history and the Civil War and things that happened pre-Civil War and slavery and things like that are all completely wrong. Big controversy. So again, take these photographs and write little narratives about it. It's kind of like you take we got our yearbooks, right? You take your yearbook from your high school and you hand it to your children. And you say, write up a story. Or you take the family photo album and you hand it to them. And you say, make up a story. You let them go through it, and you let their brain process what the pictures mean, what you think is going on in the pictures. Or do you sit down beside them, and you turn the page open and you say, oh, there's Daddy doing this, and there's Mommy doing that. Or there's a picture of my high school wrestling team, or whatever it is. If you're giving them the story, and they're not creating it, they're not going into that deeper level thinking. Okay? So we've covered science, we've covered music, language arts, we've got writing. Now I got 5 minutes, right? So again, it doesn't have to be that 40-minute block. Think outside the box a little bit. Okay? I love doing this. I could do this all day long. Showing these pictures, because it's just so much fun. Or, I got Ginger all excited the other day, because I told her something we were doing, but I was going to do it. I made it up, but
So you lied?
no. I had to take an artistic license.
Uh-huh.
So that there's a very famous photograph of a sharpshooter in Gettysburg. It was actually a staged photograph. He was actually moved some 60 yards up over the hill. You've seen him, the dead sharpshooter at Gettysburg. You may have seen him. I can find it, but I don't have a couple minutes. So this is, I took my kids and we took my phone. We put the original photograph of this dead Confederate sharpshooter, and he was dragged up over the hill 60 yards to get the picture, very famous picture of him taken behind the stone wall at Gettysburg. So we went and found this original rock. Okay? And I took a picture of it from the same angle with the kids. And then I posted it on, and I saw this, and I created this image, and I saw a lot of my friends on a Gettysburg website on Facebook, the Gettysburg group, they're posting photographs of them holding up pictures in the same location like this. So I said, I showed them this. And they were all like, oh, that's really cool. How do you do it? So I created a GIMP screencast of how I do this. It takes less than 5 minutes in GIMP to do it. 2 layers, 1 photograph on top of the other, black out, take out the other part, and it's done. Less than 5 minutes. You can do this. Creates a really cool then and now effect. How many of you are going on the photo walk tomorrow morning? Right? Go find some photographs of Wichita and do this. Old photographs of Old Town Wichita and do this. See, I told Ginger I was going to make resources available for the photo walk. I didn't really actually do that. I'm sorry. But you can do it. All of your local historical societies or the Kansas Historical Society, which is online, has photographs of all these old towns. Go to those towns that you live in, take photographs, modern photographs. You can walk around, you can print them out, you can walk around with them, take a picture. More from less than 5 minutes and GIMP. It's simple. I've got a video on how to do it. I teach thecivilwar.com. Okay? Any questions? Thank you so much. I'm always honored when people come listen to me talk. Greatly appreciate it. You can get a hold of me on, again, teachthecivilwar.com. I'm Pfeiffer1863 around the web. If you just Google Pfeiffer 1863, yes, it's a Civil War reference. So thank you so much for coming out.